Hello, Minecrafters and Redstoners. I'm Natanis Likens, and welcome to a little video that we're going to do within the Vault Hunters mod pack. If you aren't familiar with Vault Hunters, let me give you like a brief summary of what Vault Hunters is. So, there are vaults that you go into, you run around, you loot all the different types of chests in there, gathering up all sorts of different resources in order to eventually take on the final vault and defeat the vault boss. In a nutshell, that is all Vault Hunters is about. Now, the reason we are in a little video here is because I want to talk about the ups and the downs with this mod pack, because there's some really good things about it, and then there's some really odd things about it, and then there's some things that are very frustrating unless you are somebody that has a lot of time to invest in Vault Hunters. So yeah, let's take a quick look around, and we're going to talk about some of the resources that are available in Vault Hunters and some of the different things going on. First and foremost, there are a lot of new little blocks that do a whole bunch of different things. Uh, it's kind of a mixed bag of some are good, some are bad. For instance, this jewel cutting station, I haven't really used too much because it's almost pointless for what it does. And pretty much what it does is it reduces the size of these gems, and those sizes are important. However, this only seems to apply to gems that have multiple pieces on it, like you're seeing right here, multiple different things that it can do. Um, and it will remove one of those and reduce the size. If you do that to any other gem, it just destroys the gem. So the jewel cutting station is pretty worthless, in my opinion. I haven't had much of a need to even try to use that. Then we've got the Vault Forge and making your own gear. This sounds good to begin with, and from what I understand, once you get a higher proficiency in making these, it becomes really good. However, the early game and being able to make these things is horrible. You don't really fully understand it until you realize that the cheapest thing amongst these possible, or not these possible, but the required items here is actually the netherite. That is the cheapest, easiest thing to get in this, which is absolutely blasphemous compared to like vanilla Minecraft. Like that should be one of the hardest things to get, and it's actually the easiest one. And it's not even like close. Like it is very, very easy to get netherite in this. The hardest thing here to get is the vault alloy. Some may say the gold, but I found that getting gold is relatively easy, but things like this vault alloy are rather difficult actually to get, especially in mass quantities, considering the amount of resources that you have to get in order to even make those. So it's kind of a mixed bag of good and bad. We're not going to talk about all of these different items here. That's just a couple of them that I wanted to talk about. Probably the best one here is actually a tool station. This thing is great. Being able to make all these different tools is awesome. Though I do wish that they had not spread these out as much. It almost seems pointless. Um, and I will say that once you go from chromatic iron to chromatic steel, it is a big jump and very, very good jump. However, the problem becomes the resources, and that is the biggest issue I have with Vault Hunters is the resources. They have a way too many of them and way too much of an abundance of them, and then they become like not even important at some point. So it's just like, why do we have all these if they become useless or they're not even the main thing. And one of the biggest things that I can talk about with this are the vault gems. Now, I do believe there are, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There are 16 total gems, I believe. There's only one that I am missing right now. I have yet to come across an echo gem, which is kind of a problem because there's a few different things in mods that absolutely require an echo gem. And these are things that are within their own mod pack are cheap to make. And here in Vault Hunters, they require one of the rarest items to find in the entire pack. Yeah, it gets kind of ridiculous on that, and we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, these are the gems, and some of these just don't even make sense to me why they are here. First off, this one right here, Larimore. Typically, with the Larimore gem, I don't even use the actual gem. I use the next stage of it. And that is the perfect Larimore gem. So I use this more than I do the actual Larimore gem, which doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to require this thing for a lot of recipes, why is this even here? Um, and this is the main thing that you will get from the ores. So it feels like it's a weird progression gate where you need so many of these to make this perfect gem to make whatever item that in its standard form just uses vanilla resources. So the gems just don't feel good. I don't like how the gems work. It is a cool resource. It is a very interesting concept, but they need to downgrade it. And if they're going to use this Larimore gem for recipes, it needs to be just this flat out gem. And then maybe a little bit more difficult recipe in its normal mod pack needs to be the perfect gems. And then the perfect gems go even a step further than that. So it may look like I have a lot of Larimore, but you quickly realize that that's not a whole lot, and you're not going to be making a whole lot. Now, a lot of these other things, and I don't even have all of the Vault Hunter related items up here because there's a bunch of them that are just useless. I mean, they are useless. They serve no purpose whatsoever. Uh, I I can't even fathom what was going through Iskall and his team's head when they came up with some of these items. They serve zero purpose at all. I do have one of those here. That is the ancient copper, and so far I've really seen no reason to have that. There is one thing you can make with that you can't make with copper, and there are a few other like block variations, but at the end of the day it's just it's fluff. It's absolutely fluff. It doesn't need to be there. It just bloats the mod pack in my opinion. And that is also like a lot of the mods that are available in here also just feel like they bloat it. For instance, we have all these decorative items that it, it really feels like it's just bloating the game, giving you way too many options for way too many things that yeah, they do look cool, but I just it's almost like it's too much. And then it also has variations on this that require other types of woods. And I imagine in a mod pack that has a lot more biodiversity, where they have all the different types of woods that are available out there in the nether, or the ether, 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 out there in the ether, out there on the internet. Like there's all sorts of different wood types you can get out there. But yeah, it just feels like it's bloating the mod pack already. Now I know Iskall was talking about making a more vanilla based mod pack and getting rid of some things, um, which sounds good and all. And I really hope that they make a lot of changes with that because some of this stuff just doesn't need to be there at all, except for like this regret orb that's actually serves a purpose. Some of these other things, like the gems are cool, but they feel like they are a gate to progressing in pretty much anything, and it's kind of hilarious at times, and it makes sense in some places, and other places not so much. It kind of sucks in spots. Uh, we're gonna talk about what I mean on that here in a second. Let's just go upstairs back to my unfinished bedroom, and we will discuss some of that stuff. I do have some chests set up there to kind of showcase this a little bit. All right. So first off, with Botania, we're going to talk about Botania a little bit here first, because this is where I actually noticed it the biggest. Okay, so one of the first things that you're going to make in Botania, and please bear with me because I do not have it unlocked yet. One of the first things you're going to make is this daisy, and this is going to allow you to make a few of the different resources within Botania in order to progress in the mod pack, and it's usually fairly simple. You get a pedestal. Here, let's just do it this way. You get one of these guys, and first off, I want you to notice right off the back, like I was saying, this requires a perfect Larimore gem instead of just a Larimore gem. Okay, why? That this in every iteration of Botania I have ever played is only cobblestone and one of these petals that you see here. That is it. That is all it's ever required. Instead, in Vault Hunters, excuse me, you are required to get a perfect Larimore gem. Um, I'm at a stage where getting this is not actually that difficult. It seems so out of place and pointless to change it to require a Vault Hunter specific item. And they've done that to everything in all the mods that are available in the current version of Vault Hunters. So continuing on with that, so typically, like I said, I do not have Vault Hunter. I do not have Botania unlocked, so I cannot get the petals right now. So we got Bone Mill here standing in for the petals. Now, typically in the pack, you need 4 white petals and 1 thing of seeds to make the daisy. That's all you need. It's very simple, very basic, and it's something that early game you should be able to do very, very easily. Now, here in Vault Hunters, there's a couple of problems. First things first, you have to unlock Botania. And let's go over here to this. This is all the mods that are available in this version of Vault Hunters. Iskal is working on a more vanilla friendly, so I imagine this entire page is just going to go away, which makes more sense because I don't like how this is all first off gated by the amount of knowledge that you need to possess to unlock these mods, but then it's also gated by the resources necessary to make this stuff. For instance, I grabbed Torchmaster early on, which allows you to make mega torches. Mega torches keep mobs from spawning in an area around the placement of it. Unfortunately, I can't make this because it requires an echo gem, and I have yet to even see an echo gem. So it doesn't make any sense there. Now, let's go over here to Botania. You can see right here that it is available. I do already have Create, so the actual cost of Botania is going to go up. You can see that as plus 12 right there. If we click here, this is going to cost 18 knowledge points. Okay, 18 doesn't sound like a lot if you're not familiar with how some of this stuff works. But then once you get into what it takes to make 1 knowledge point, 18 is quite a bit. We're talking 3 and 4 stacks of items at that point. uh, it gets costly and ridiculous very, very quick. Okay, so this is the recipe for the daisy in Vault Hunters. It's going to cost you 3 white petals. Again, we are having to use bone meal to fill in. A perfect Larimore gem again. So yeah, we're not even using the normal Larimore gem. We're using a perfect Larimore gem. So that means that you've got to be able to get 4 Larimore gems just for this one recipe. And then chromatic steel. Okay, so the chromatic iron and chromatic steel and the black chromatic steel are the bane of my existence right now. These things are ridiculous. So to make just one of these, there, let me pull up the recipe for these. Okay, so we got the black chromatic steel here, we got the chromatic steel here, and then we got the chromatic iron here. So the chromatic iron, like any other resource in the game, you just gotta mine it up, and it's a one-on-one. So for the chromatic steel, though, and you can't really see. Well, I mean, you can see. So here's the recipe right here for just one. You need 4 chromatic irons and 2 of these refined carbons. Doesn't sound like too much, except for the fact that these refined carbons don't come in this form. They come in raw carbon form. And in order to make this, you need 9. So right off the bat, just to make one of these, we need 18 of these of raw carbon in order to make these 2 refined carbon. So we're using 22 resources just to make one of these. Just to make one. We're using 22 items to make one of these. This only requires one, but when you start looking at everything else and some of the other things, this starts becoming very expensive very quickly, and it starts getting to the point where the amount of resources required just starts getting ridiculous. And this, again, in the base normal version of this mod, this thing is cheap. And then we're coming over here, so we need 22 for that. We need 4 for this. So we've increased the amount of resources needed to make this one flower for Botania by by 24 items, because these are taking the place of 2. So yeah, that's a bit that's a bit much. And I know it sounds like it's all right, and that you're going to be able to find a lot of this stuff later on. No, because my whole point on this little rant here is that this is supposed to be the earliest, most basic item you can make in Botania, along with with the oh, what is the thing called? I always forget what this thing is called. Apothecary, along with the apothecary. So they've increased what it takes to actually make this by adding this perfect Larimore gem. And remember that this requires 4 Larimore gems. Yeah, so this starts getting just out of hand very quickly, and that's just a one of the first examples that I've found, and it goes on from there with all the other mods. Next up, we want to talk about the create mod a little bit, because we got the same kind of thing going on over here. So for these andesite casings, this is the most basic building block of create, along with this andesite alloy, which I didn't include because the recipe is arguably better than the create mode, while also being worse. Create mode? Create mod, while also being worse. So this is a good thing, bad thing on the andesite alloy. So this requires uh, 2 andesite to 1 chromatic iron ingot. Uh, Now, if you know about the create mod, you'll know that it's actually 2 iron nuggets and 2 andesite. So this making one of these in Vault Hunters is slightly more expensive and more annoying than making it in regular create mod. Anyway, so typically in the create mod, you would use this andesite alloy on a stripped log in order to make your andesite casing. Yeah, you guessed it already. Oh no, that is not the case here. The actual recipe here for making it is 1 andesite alloy to a chromatic iron block. Yeah, yeah, a chromatic iron block. So to make this stack here, I had to use 64 chromatic iron blocks. Yeah, start doing the math on that as far as how many resources it takes to make that compared to its vanilla counterpart. And I say vanilla, what I'm referring to there is create mod in its normal state. So why they have quadrupled the resources necessary to make some of this stuff in Vault Hunters absolutely baffles me. Like, it is ridiculous the cost that it takes to make some of these things. Not to mention the fact that this is already gated behind the knowledge system, and it gets really expensive. Again, you may not think 18 is that expensive until you start looking at what it takes to actually get those 18 points. And it's the exact same thing as what I'm pointing out here with the other things, like the daisy and then the andesite casings. Like, they've increased the cost of some of this stuff so much that it's just like, well, by the time you unlock it, why bother? And that's one of the things that a lot of people on the Reddit were telling me about, because I have gone and made a few vanilla farms. I don't know if you can really make that out. That's a an automatic pumpkin farm there. That's a mob dropper there, um, which aren't necessary in this mod pack. However, because of the gated nature of how you unlock mods and then how they cost vault resources and how much of those vault resources, it gets a little bit ridiculous to where an average person playing like 2 to 3 hours a day, it may take you a month just to do one little thing. That is not bad, but I'm talking a month of making something that in its vanilla state you could probably make in like 20 minutes. Yeah. But I wanted to dive into Create and actually go ahead and start setting up things like a Steam engine setup that I believe I've seen uh, Tango Tech make on his channel when him and a few other members were doing the create mod. But yeah, that's not going to happen here in Vault Hunters for quite a while. Actually, I really imagine that I would be able to complete the pack before I'm able to actually fully use the create mod, and that's saying something. It is a bit ridiculous what they've done with some of this stuff. Um, I'm not a huge fan of that at all. And it feels like it's too much. Like, it's a little bit ridiculous what they've done with some of the stuff. Now, the Vault Hunter stuff itself, for the most part, feels good. Like, the tools, I know I don't have any tools right here. The tools themselves feel great, but only when it comes to being in the vault. When I'm in the overworld, it's actually a little bit better, I would say, to have netherite tools, simply because, you can put mending on these, whereas this thing I can't. Um, we're gonna ignore the fact that this has got vanilla immortality on it, so I could use this thing in vanilla for all eternity. It'll never break. But there are some caveats to that, and there are some issues that until you start playing the mod pack, you don't really realize are an issue because the hermits playing it and some of the bigger, there's bigger YouTubers than the hermits. Ugh. Some of the other big YouTubers, they just don't make it they don't make it seem like it's that difficult. And the reason for that is they're YouTubers. They have the time to spare to do that stuff. Like for them spending 8 to 12 hours sitting and just playing this mod pack or Minecraft as a whole is nothing to them. They could do that. They can grind that stuff out. For you and me, that is really not possible. Making it, well, my schedule's kind of weird, so let's just ignore that for a minute. But for the average person, uh, grinding out that kind of amount of resources is actually very difficult. Uh, there's some things that I have done in vanilla that took me months to do that I've seen Hermitcraft do in like a single episode. So they may have grinded out the resources necessary in a week, whereas because I'm very limited on the time that I have to do things, it would take over a month to get those same amount of resources. So the I can see Iscal's point on this stuff is okay. It's not overly grindy, but at the same time, it is overly grindy if you don't have the time. And I really mean that. If you do not have the time for some of these resources to get in the absurd abundances you need, uh, it really does become quite grindy after a while. And it feels like instead of actually progressing in a mod pack or in Vault Hunters, I'm spending way more time trying to grind out things than actually enjoying it. Uh, yeah, that it's kind of it's kind of this weird it's kind of this weird balancing act that I feel is half good, half bad here in Vault Hunters. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that. I would love for you guys to leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about the balance of resources necessary in the mod pack. And hopefully you guys can come over to Twitch and catch me on my night shift schedule. So I will say that, we are unfortunately unable to use our mic at night because, other people are sleeping and we can't really disturb them. And yeah, that's just where we're at. And there's a spider up there. And I was going to leave you there with that. But there is one other thing that I did want to mention and bring up to Iscal or any of the team members working on Vault Hunters. I really want some ranged weapons. Like, I am so used to using bows that it is so pathetic in Vault Hunters. Like, you might as well have written them out of the code. Like, block them off completely because they are absolutely worthless here in Vault Hunters. And even in vanilla, they feel underpowered. Like, as you can see with the enchants that I was able to put on this bow, they have severely nerfed what you can do with a bow. And my, I'm assuming this is because it was, quote, overpowered in the vault. Um, I want you to look at my hotbar right now. So this is my overworld gear. This is the stuff that I use while I'm in the overworld. And I want you to notice one specific thing that I have on my hotbar. And that is the sword. Um, yeah, so because they did the mob scaling, they or because they did all these different weapons that scale with your level, and you will see right there above the hunger bar that is my vault level. I am level 47. So they do have weapons that scale with that, and because of this, inside the vault, the bow is absolutely worthless. I don't know where they were getting the idea that it was overpowered and need to be nerfed. It's barely doing any amount of damage in the vault. And because they nerfed it, because they're like it's overpowered, why I don't know, because it's not, it's actually underpowered. It's severely nerfed here in the overworld. Typically, shots and things I would do to kill creatures. That spider was low on health. Usually doesn't happen like that. It usually takes a few hits to kill something like that. So yeah, I really want them to like fix the issue with ranged weapons. Like I really want some vault bows and vault crossbows, or even like some other things. Like I know the old Tinkerers had like throwing stars. I would like something like that. That would be handy. Anything to actually have a ranged weapon. Um, because yeah, it just doesn't feel good trying to melee all this stuff all the time and being constantly pelted. Like I've gotten used to actually having this shield with thorns on it. So yeah, please, 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 if you guys see this, um, get us some ranged weapons, because that would be lovely. Because right now, the closest thing we have to that is this, and unfortunately, because of mana requirements and cooldown, like it's got a decent cooldown, and I have used it a few times, but its damage is kind of pathetic, actually. So yeah, that is where I'm going to leave you all at. Instead of continuing to rant on, I'm just going to leave off there and let you guys know that I am going to be live every 3 days over on Twitch. That is twitch.tv/Natanus_Lycans. Uh, you can refer to my channel name in order to know how to spell that. And yeah, we need an outro still.